Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. A session for meditation. To explore the mind by yourself and together. What is meditation? It's always a question we need to understand. Probably that's the only question we can ask about meditation. When one asks how to meditate, it seems that one has understood what is meditation. A lot of people ask questions about meditation, about their symptoms, about their feelings after meditating. The problem is that we all use the word meditation. But it might means very different. If we don't ask seriously what is meditation, actually there's no point further investigating how to meditate. Since we have different ways of mean meditation. You mean your meditation. Somebody else means something else. But we all call it meditation. Then we start the conversation from there. From where? From nowhere, right? But this situation appears most in most people's daily life, doesn't it? We all think we know what is meditation. That's why we just use that as an assumption to communicate with you how to meditate. So you may find that there can be numerous questions about meditation. But if one really answer what is meditation, if one knows the answer to this, one won't ask any more questions. One won't ask how to meditate, because one has known what is meditation. So now, here we come back to this question, time and time again. In different time, in different space, in different sessions, at different life stage, we ask, what is meditation? If meditation is something different from living a life, and we try to use different expressions from different perspectives, which is of course in the domain of language, to approach it, to describe it. But the description is not the described. Is it? If all of us gets caught up in the language, then we can't continue the conversation further because the verse has blocked us from touching upon the truth, which must lie beyond the verse, beyond any thought. So now, back again. This whole process of understanding what is meditation is meditation. Which means that one can't understand what is meditation without living with meditation. It's not difficult to understand conceptually, intellectually, some core values of meditation. But it's completely different from living in truth, which is meditation. The one who thinks about meditation is different from the one who really meditates. Meditates. The one who thinks one understands the truth is different from one is the truth. What we understand conceptually, intellectually about the truth is mere some words, some expressions, some descriptions. But what I mean the truth is beyond any words and expressions, and can be only touched upon by our perception. Can we perceive it? Can the truth be our perception? If the truth is your perception, you have touched upon the essence of meditation. You must be the truth. Then the truth can flower on you. Of course, thoughts can easily approximate the truth. Just like we are doing now here, right? Body's communication. We are using thoughts to approximate. But it can't replace the truth, which can be only perceived when you have that proper perception. So we can say, to meditate is to make the truth your perception. If you really go into it, you may find that this very subtle point is so important. It's so urgent. If you have the urgency to make that truth, if you have the urgency to make the truth your perception, that very urgency will transform you totally. So before we dive into this today a little more, let's keep silent for 3 or 4 minutes to quieten the mind first, so we can have a clearer mind for a better exploration. Does the self, the ego, exist or not? I think it's not difficult to go through an intellectual analysis to find that the self is empty, this ego is empty. But can one feel that the self, the ego, doesn't exist? Can one feel that? This can be subtle, but it's completely different. When one intellectually think the self does not exist, and one feel that the self is empty, never exists. One may agree that the self really doesn't exist, but one can just derive some pleasure from this thought. But if one put this thought into practice and make this truth the perception, it's a different story. It's a different story. It's a different thing, is it? And feel the self doesn't exist require us to have a proper perception about the world. The world is the inner world. The inner world is the world, isn't it? To meditate, not to follow some traditions, systems, disciplines, but just to live life in truth. It's to meditate. It's to let the truth be your perception. Or simply speaking, to let the truth be you. Perception is something very amazing, right? For the human beings. For all the animals. The perception can come from the feelings due to the neurons, which are interacting with the environment inwardly and outwardly. And also, perception can come from thoughts. For most of us, people are living in thoughts. Living in thoughts means their life is full of all kinds of attachment to thoughts, to mental images, to some expressions. It also means that their perception is built up on the thoughts. That's a horrific thing to see. When one's perception is purely built on thoughts, what does that imply? It implies that the perception is very fixed, isn't it? Because when one is attached to thought, to mental image, the thought is fixed. Right? So the perception based on thoughts is also fixed. In the past sessions, we have discussed the self, right? It is made up all kinds of thoughts, images about this body. All kinds of hurt in the past. All kinds of terrible experiences, present experiences. Age, position, title, or whatever. All these kind of thoughts which are old and in the past build up the self. If your life is like this, the perception is based on thoughts. That's why the perception about the self is very fixed. It feels like true, isn't it? Because the perception is so stable, so deep-seated. Oh yeah, I really exist. I do exist. It's all because the consequence of the distortion of the perception due to the thought. Isn't it? If one has such a perception, and one can live free, live a happy life without any conflicts, if one can, go ahead, live in that way, right? But of course, to live with the self without any problems can be a greater illusion, isn't it? When one is attached to an image, a thought, which means that this image, this thought has been fixed. What does this imply? Back to the neurons. If you have perceived your neurons, actually not your neurons, the neurons, you might have noticed that the mind is always in a flux. Even the thoughts on your mind is changing all the time. Today you might think in this way, feeling quite bad, but tomorrow you might feel very great sometimes. Thoughts is always in a dynamic change. You might have some kind of imagination today, but tomorrow you totally forget. But when one is attached to an image, a thought, it means that this image is no longer changeable, it's fixed. Just like a river. The water is flowing along the bank. If you also flow with the water, you feel nothing. But if you stand in the water, what do you feel? How do you feel? Conflicts, resistance. Something is pushing you. This is the analogy to the situation when one is attached to one thought, one image. Let alone when one is purely living in thoughts with so many attachments. People feel stressed, suffocated. Lost. At the same time, one still feel strongly that one does exist. At the same time, one feel lost, depressed, stressed, conflicted. And one want to find out a solution to it. So one began to seek. The more one seeks, the stronger the perception about the self is. It's becoming a vicious circle, isn't it? I have issues. I need to find a solution to it. To solve my issues, to make the self happy. One is purely ignorant of this whole process of the image making, the distortion of the perception, the attachment, the all kinds of mischief the self is playing. And what one is focused on is just to seek. The more one seeks, the stronger the self is, isn't it? So, to meditate is to ask ourselves whether we can work out of that loop. Immediately. whether I can restore my perception about life, about nature. Nature does exist, regardless of our thoughts, doesn't it? The earth, the universe, does exist. How the neuron works is part of nature, isn't it? The law of nature exists, if we can put it in that way. It is always independent of our thinking. Can we perceive nature? Can our perception be part of nature? When we are living in thoughts, the perception is built on thoughts, which seem to be very fixed. That's why we get the illusion that the self exists. So we are all turning around the self. We are isolated purely by the self, isn't it? Because when we have the self, we look at the world through this telescope of the self, through such a small hole to see the world. In that perception, we can't perceive nature, can we? We are totally disconnected from nature. To meditate is to let the mind come back to nature, to really work out thoughts. So the thoughts no longer distort your perception. It doesn't mean that you have no thoughts. You have to think properly, right? Think intelligently, to reason, to find out the truth, at least intellectually. That's important. And that is truth you find by yourself. Be your perception, which is more important. Living a life is a matter of perception, isn't it? Living in nature does not mean that you have to have a house in the mountains. Even you can do that if your mind is not in nature. It's no difference from living in a crowded city, isn't it? To live in nature means that can we let nature be our perception? Truth is nature. Nature is truth. So now it's time for us to meditate before we continue and wrap up the exploration. So now in next 10 minutes, let's follow the audio guide to let the mind calm down by itself. Then we come back together. Now, let's take a 10-minute meditation. Start by taking a moment to find a comfortable position to sit in a posture that you feel relaxed and get alert. Let hands rest on your knees or laps. Let the eyes close gently. Soften your forehead. Act a soft smile in the corner of your lips. Breathe naturally. As you breathe in, be aware that you are breathing in. Feel the sensation of breathing in. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. As you breathe out, be aware that you are breathing out. Feel the sensation of breathing out. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. Fix your attention on the breath. Let go of any thought, words, images. This moment, nothing is more important than breath. while you are listening to the bell. Check where your attention is. If it wasn't on the breath, after the bell, gently invite your attention back to the breath and sustain your attention on the breath. Slowly, bring your awareness back to this room. Feel into your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open your eyes. To perceive properly about the world, the life, is to be alone. This means that one has to explore the mind totally, completely, by oneself. To be able to be aware of the self on every corner of life in all kinds of subtle forms. So does the thought. Awareness. In the past 10 minutes, we meditated together in this way. To work out the thoughts. But can one do it at each moment? No matter what one is doing, can one keep this awareness at each moment? Not like we just meditate in the session, then after session we return to the normal chaos, return to the normal issues. Can we have that awareness at each moment? This means that the mind should have a proper perception. To let the mind be the truth. Such a mind is alone, but it never feels lonely because the mind is so rich in exploration. And only when the mind is alone, there could be the possibility the mind can touch upon the truth. A mind who is able to touch upon the truth is free from the influences. Which are everywhere, you know that. So that's the whole content for today's session. We can't cover everything because the mind is always so dynamic, and the totality of it can't be talked about in such a short time. And we shouldn't keep this session too heavy. So let's finish this topic by now, and we can carry on in the future sessions. So now is the time for us to discuss. Anybody want to speak something or have any questions to ask, to raise? We can have a look at it together. If there's no question, we can finish today's session. Bob?
Hi, Zico. Good evening. I have this question. If you have a quiet mind, so if your perspective is the truth, and you're in your daily activities, for instance, you're writing something or something else, doing some other mind work, then is it possible to be kind of detached and to I mean, my experience is when I'm writing or email or whatever, I can be fully occupied by that, and I don't have the idea that I'm kind of paying attention to what is. Maybe I do, but apparently I do, because if you're thinking, you're constantly thinking things over. And do you understand what I mean?
So if I can rephrase Bob's question, is that can I do my things with awareness?
Yes.
I can have a quiet mind by meditating consciously, like we did in the past 10 minutes or an occasion you have had for the whole day. But how can I keep this awareness when I'm doing all kinds of daily activities? The mind seems to be occupied with it totally, like in writing an email or whatever. Then the awareness is totally lost. The mind is totally caught up in the reactions to the words, because when people is occupied with something, the mind purely identifying itself with the things. Because for most people, they are educated in a way to concentrate, to exclusively focus on one thought, and trying best to excluding other thoughts. That very doing so, which seems to be intuitive, but it's very, very the distortion of the mind. And then you may find that only for some people whose mind has been maybe fortunately distorted in that way. For most people, they are struggling to concentrate because the mind itself resists to this distortion. Can we do the things, no matter what we're doing, with whole attention, not concentration? Concentration means exclusion, but attention means include everything. When I write an email, can I be aware of my mind? Can I not be attached to words fully? Because when we are into the mood of expressing something, we totally identify ourselves with the verse. It is because we are ignorant of the language. We haven't understood what is language. What's the relation between this body and the language? That's why we haven't had a proper perception about language, for example, in this situation. Without the proper perception, when we're doing this, we are naturally disconnected from the truth, from the nature. That's why in that situation, doing that stuff in that way only distort the mind. I think everybody can feel the consequence of it, right? The mind is very tense. And after that activity, the mind is sometimes is chaotic. All kinds of wanderings. That's all because this distortion we are not aware of. So the answer is very simple. It is absolutely possible. But it depends on everybody to figure out how to achieve that. How? How comes from what is. The truth is very subtle, isn't it? Like just we mentioned here in the example, the language. We need to perceive the truth. Then that kind of a detachment, as Bob mentioned, will come naturally. It's not from our will. The will is still revolved around the center, which is called the self, the ego. Also, the concentrate is the same. When there's concentration, there's doer. The doer is the self.
Exactly.
So, how to do it is not to do a specific thing, but it's how to transform our perception into truth in all kinds of subtle ways. And things will come naturally.
Thank you for your answer, Siko. It gives extra room. Your answer gives extra room for extra space for thinking, so to speak.
Great. So, by the end of the session, again, hope everybody has good week. Enjoy each day, each moment. Why do you need to enjoy each moment? because the truth is only at this moment. If you don't enjoy it, you will miss it. So, take care, everybody. See you in the future sessions.
Thank you, Siko. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.